At the Goodwood Festival of Speed 2022, one of the undoubted highlights, certainly in terms of cars that we haven't seen before that have been unveiled here, is the Prodrive P25. And to talk us round it and tell us a bit more about what's gone into it is none other than David Lapworth, Head of R&D for Prodrive, an absolute legend in the field of the WRC. And thank you very much for talking about it. P25, so this is a reimagining of the 22B kind of sort of...
I think if you kind of try to blend the sort of 22B and a 97 World Rally car or something, that sort of the best of both worlds, plus everything we learned in the years following that with paddle shift and diff control and all that, put it all together and sort of say what's the closest we could get to what we think of an ultimate road car. Not necessarily the fastest drag racer or supercar in the normal sense, but like a proper driver's car.
Proper driver's world, right? Yeah. Right. So we have obviously two-door Impreza. You're building 25 of them.
Yep.
They're a lot of money. So the engineering underneath it, where should we start? We should start with the bodywork for a start, shall we? Start from the outside and then go in. Yep. So carbon bodywork for an awful lot of it.
Buried underneath it all is a standard monocoque chassis, but then we try to save as much weight as we can with carbon roof, bonnet, tailgate, that sort of thing, and a few bits of reinforcement here and there, just like we would have done in a rally car in the old days. We've stiffened up some of the suspension mountings and used some different links and that sort of thing. We've got a bespoke upright to try and get the suspension geometry and so on to carry the sort of flavour of a World Rally car from the old days. The suspension geometry and so on is inspired by those World Rally cars like that thing over there.
So you've got that kind of agility, I think.
Yeah, the DNA is World Rally car mixed with a bit of 22B.
Yeah. So what sort of overall weight are we looking at for this?
It looks like it's going to come in the high 1100s, 1200, depending on the spec. I think what's going to happen is most people are going to want the sort of extreme. We've got a few options that we can talk about with it. If anybody puts their money down, though, we can say, so what do you want to do about the seats or blah, blah, blah. But I think it'll come in around about the 1200 or a bit lighter if you go for a more sort of extreme version.
So what are the sort of extreme things you can do with it?
Well, we can obviously, at the moment, for instance, it's set up to actually carry rear seat passengers and that sort of thing. You could bias it more towards a sort of track day car. You can put in a basic roll structure, we take out the rear seats, we can put in some of the rally bits and pieces, and we can make it feel more of a track day car or a rally car, or you can tone it down a bit and make it a bit more practical. And we'll refine that as and when we talk to more of the customers. I think we'll get a better picture. My impression is most people are going to want the fastest version, not the comfort version, but we'll see.
So in terms of the drivetrain underneath, we've got 2.5 litre boxer engine.
So it's an all new engine based on a up-to-date Subaru 2.5 litre block, but with our own heads and Arthur, our head of engines has sort of sprinkled the magic dust on it. So it's not just, it's going to be 450 plus horsepower. It's not just 450 horsepower. It's got proper throttle response. It's got motorsport turbochargers, massive intercooler. So it's got that feel.
And it's got a launch control system from the WRC.
So just like a WRC car at their very best, when we do a launch, it puts in the first two gear changes for you because it happens so quick. That you haven't got time. You hit the rev limiter in first gear before you realise that you've even launched. So it goes first, second, and then it hands over to you. When it's in third gear, now you should be able to manage fourth and fifth and sixth. But even they come around fairly quickly.
Absolutely. And the gearbox itself is...
So it's a proper dog box with paddle shift. So probably 60 millisecond gear shift, something like that. It's a proper WRC inspired racing gearbox.
And is it taken from actually the ones that you used?
No,
it's a newly engineered.
Some of the cases are carryover, but the internals are absolutely 100% new.
And I noticed in there we've obviously got the nice single paddle. In there,
You can't be because if you've got a sort of token paddle shift, you can have it on the steering wheel. But if you want to change gear you know, when the steering wheel's round there,
Yeah.
You know, we went through it. You can imagine those early days of developing paddle shift for WRC. You very quickly learn that you need to know where the paddle is.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't be caught out trying to get down the gears or up the gears. So we've put the paddle on there. We know that is, for us anyway, that's the only option. I mean, in a racing car, you only ever change gear.
No.
You know,
exactly.
when you're near straight, but in a rally car, that's not always the case. And this is more that way, like I said. I'm sure you're never going to find yourself in that situation on the road, but.
So have you put a hydraulic handbrake in it?
It's got everything. You know, you can handbrake it. You can do donuts and you know, tyre smoking launches and all those sort of things. Yeah.
Amazing. And we'll decouple the different rear for when you pull the.
Yeah. So when you pull the handbrake, it'll automatically disconnect the centre. Release the centre diff so that it'll go around on the handbrake. You've got to be able to do that kind of Colin McRae inspired handbrake turn. Because I think that's part of the DNA.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got a centre diff.
The centre diff has got a control. We've got to go through that development process yet of deciding where the map options are. Yeah. But obviously we've got quite a lot of experience of some pretty good drivers to sort of say this is a recipe. You don't like to tell people this is what you should do, but we are going to tell people this is what you should do. I think everything can be bespoke. Yeah. But we're going to offer up a couple of menus. You know, there's a kind of nice, quiet road driving version. There's a sporty one, and there is. Are you sure? Yeah. That's what you want when you're.
Well, let's face it. You are the expert, so people want to come to you, and they want.
I think so. I think that's the right way to do it.
It's
to put sort of three options in there. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So interior is obviously then it's a more.
Well, again,
the seats have been.
We've got, as the car is now, it's quite civilised. Yeah. Those that really do want to drive it enthusiastically might want to opt for the sort of rally type seats, seats, proper harnesses and all the rest of it. I think that's what most people will opt for. At the moment, we're waiting to see what people want to choose.
Wheels are obviously larger, but the spoke wheels to...
Again, we've got a more extreme tyre, which we're thinking some people might want. This is more of a road going.
So what's it on at the moment?
It's on a 19.
Sensors. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And all of those things can be options. I mean, we'll wait and see.
And then bespoke
that's a good middle ground.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel. It feels like it's got lots of grip, but it doesn't feel sort of too pointy.
No.
And it looks like it can cope. We haven't driven it in the wet yet, but I think it can cope with a bit of rain or whatever. It's not so
extreme.
That,
and presumably McPherson struts all round as you'd expect.
It's WRC.
Yeah, absolutely. And AP racing brakes, which were specifically done for this. Is that right?
Yeah. So the brake was done in cooperation with AP. You know, we gave them a spec, and they came back with what they could do, and that's it. So again, that's as a brake package, that is every bit as good as we would have had in a WRC car of that era, or even later. And
I know Peter Stevens was obviously designed and involved with the original cars. He's been involved.
He's been involved in this as well. He's been sort of sense checked on, how do you kind of keep it the same but refresh it a little bit. So he's got a few touches, and I think there might be a few more finishing touches still to come. We're still talking about that.
Absolutely. Well, I hope I get to have a go at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It does look absolutely brilliant. So there we go. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure
talking to you.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with David Lapworth. I thought it was fascinating to have his insights into the car. The number plate on the back of this says P25 POA, but we know it's going to cost £460,000 plus VAT, so it's £550,000 once you've added the 20% tax on top, which is a lot of money. I mean, you could get one of those really for that sort of money, so you could have a genuine WRC car. And I think a lot of people's mind are thinking, well, that's sort of, it's a 22B, but this is clearly so much more than a 22B. It really is one of those for the road. And I know you can drive those on the road, as I have, but just refined enough that you can use it all the time. It's an interesting thing, this whole sort of restomod world where we know they're a huge amount of money, but it does sort of seem slightly confusing. It's a Subaru. restomod. And to a lot of people, they just won't get it. And I understand that, but once you hear the engineering that has gone into this, that it's not just a 22B recreation. This is a world rally car that's just been civilized enough so that you can enjoy it on the road and you won't attract the attention of something like that. I think it'll be fascinating to see and drive out on the road, which hopefully I'll get to do at some point. They're all sold anyway, so they're clearly doing something right. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. I'd be fascinated to hear. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.